This is this is an open letter for Uncle Sam. Love you, Uncle Sam. Here's the thing, Uncle Sam. Uh, I made a video previous to this regarding regarding the fact that separation of church and state. It was a good thing. Now we need to separate commerce from the state. And there's a full video about that. So, but because the topic is so important, I need to dedicate another piece to it. Folks, separation of commerce and state is as important as the separation of church and state was. This is as if not more important than separation of church and state, is as important as separation of church and state. Commerce needs to be separated from the state. End of story. You want to have capitalism? Capitalism is fine. It's just the heads of the capital cannot be the heads of the state as well. These two need to be separated, i.e. the rich people, heads of the industry, can be heads of industry and have a great time, but they cannot also become heads of states or, cronies of the heads of states, or the selected overlords into different departments that the civil servants run. Civil servants, the state needs to be separate from the commerce, period. If you don't want to be an empire, if you don't want, Uncle Sam, if you don't want your citizens to suffer, and the other inhabitants of Earth to suffer, if you don't want these to happen, you got to separate the state from commerce. There should be absolutely no interest in the state towards commerce. There should be absolutely no interest. Sort of like, if you have any kind of contact with any person who's into commerce, then you're out. It should be as bad as that. And the reason is simple. Heads of commerce have access to money. Money corrupts absolutely. You see, absolute money corrupts absolutely. This is it. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Absolute money corrupts absolutely. Because money is power. So you can actually extend that old proverb of absolute power corrupts absolutely. You can extend it and say absolute money, access to absolute money, someone with access to a lot of money corrupts absolutely. Because you can always, as I said in the other video, you can always, buy the guy's wife for the night for $2 million. The plot of the Indecent Proposal. You can buy the guy's wife for the night for $2 million, but I bet you couldn't, do anything else to sleep with his wife. The only solution to the question of how do I get to sleep with his wife is $2 million. That was the only solution to that question. Nothing else could fill that. And if nothing else can fill that sentence, then that means it can corrupt absolutely, because it can. Now, and if you want to examples of it, I can go around that say wherever commerce is involved with the state, the situation is becomes a little hellish. The situation becomes a little. The commerce supposedly, has to make things more affordable. With competition. But what in reality happens is that commerce is after profits. How it is what it should be. But the state is not after profit, should not be after profit, cannot be after profit, because the state is catching the minions that the system didn't want. If you're catching all the unwanted, exactly how profitable can you be? These are what state catches at the bottom are cogs that this machinery of Amazon and machinery of Walmart and machinery of KFC and the machinery of McDonald's and the machinery of Jiffy Lube. After none of these machineries can use this fucking gear in their machines, this fucking gear falls down and the government has to catch it because it's part of the tribe. Now the Nazis went about by eliminating the unwanted, sort of like, if they're not productive, just gas them. They're not productive, gas them. That's how they got rid of their unproductive. But do we want to go that route? I mean, what is happening now is, for example, mixing commerce with the state. Wherever commerce with the state is mixed, you have issues. Example, for-profit prisons. The state has mixed with commerce. The state wants to, segregate some people from the society, so they send them to prisons. But if these prisons were government prisons and they were not profitable and they were a burden, well, the state naturally would not want to lock too many people up because, it's a burden. But then, what if the cost of keeping these guys, we can bring that cost low and actually, have our friend put up a prison and we work kind of a deal that we don't cost the state that much to keep these chickens or humans who are, reduced to the status of a chicken, locked up in a enclosed space. You're a chicken from now on because, you did some infringement. Instead of, we try to investigate and find out what in life could the society have done for you at the right moment so you would not be in a position that you are right now. Instead of questioning any of that or in trying to investigate any of that, just try to lock this motherfucker up for as cheap as possible. So therefore for-profit prisons come about. So they not only they lock them up and they don't cost the state that much, they don't charge the state that much, but now they have locked up chickens, prisoner, locked up prisoner that is, now they can pay them $1 a day, feed them shit and pay them $1 a day to sew underwears, and they would be happy to have that job because they get their they're not chickens, they get bored out of their mind. So any kind of a job, even if you pay me for $1, that's fine, I take the job. So inside the prison, so so basically the prisoners inside the prison system become actually their labor can compete with Chinese labor and Indian labor and Nigerian labor. Can you do that? Yeah. what's the point? I mean, yeah, the politician gets elected, and the judiciary apparently has to go this route. Judiciary, apparently supposed to follow whatever the legislature, spells out for them. And the for-profit prison owners were happy to comply and pay their taxes and pay their, election dues, donations, and keep the cycle going. The only people who lose from this situation is people that, the system hasn't educated in a way that the system sees that the system will need tomorrow. The system didn't give a fuck. They didn't educate them with the right information. And now they've ended up as supposedly a burden to the system as a prisoner, but then the state is charged a little, but their motherfuckers are abused and, fed as a slave, worked as a slave, fed as a slave, basically treated a little better than a slave. That's what prison labor is about. Just above slave. And when they keep you hungry, when they keep a bunch of people hungry who don't have much skills to offer because the system hasn't bothered to, teach them the right skills, then, what are you going to do? And let's leave the prison system, the for-profit prisons where commerce and the state have, come to some sort of agreement. Let's move to education. Just whatever is feeding those prisons is coming out of the education system. Okay, what's the problem is there? What is the problem there? The commerce have come to an agreement with the state. Commerce has come to an agreement with the state we charge a lot of money to teach whatever we have to teach the motherfuckers, but we charge them a lot of money. Okay, do you pay these monies to your professors? We pay them enough. Then where does this money go? It becomes part of our wealth, the wealth of our university. And our university, we can do research and development in a very, very important fields at the edge of, science and technology. But so you're concentrating the wealth of a nation into a few institutions to do edgy research and development, but then the bulk who cannot pay or are not willing to borrow that money, or the rest are not given education because they couldn't come up with the money, or no. Commerce, this is where the government gets into a deal with a questionable deal with the commerce. Commerce is for-profit universities, Yale, Harvard, Princeton, all of these motherfuckers. And because other universities see them as the, guiding post, and University of Oklahoma also adapts similar policies. So you have these, specific for-profit university who do, extreme research and development in a few fields with all the money they got. But information is not spread to hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people. No, we don't have the money for that, because education has become for profit. So commerce and the state are mixed up. And how is it the state is picking up the bill for this overpriced education? The state is picking up the bill for this overpriced education, and then the slave, the citizen has to work for a long period of the time to just pay that number that they owe. To who they owe? To their government. Why is the government was willing to pay $100,000-$200,000 in tuition to a private university? That loan was given from the government to that university. That education center, I don't care if it's a private primary school, a loan was given to a person, to go to that school. That the person is under a loan, but the school got the chunk of the money. The school got the fucking cash from the finance company. The school gets the cash, and the student becomes now, in a way, a servant to the state, whichever state owns the student loan. Student loan? These are the members of the tribe. Members of the tribe has to teach its members the skills that the tribe feels they need in a few years. How, this is a job of the state to train its citizens in the foreseeable job market. Don't do that. They come out of high school not very well educated in any field. Why? Because commerce has got involved with education of the state. The education that is, especially up to high school, education is a state manner. When I say state, I mean federal. I mean the whole shaboom. Governance. Education of the members of the tribe is a governance matter. It should not be left to individuals to decide. It's a governance matter, because the governance says, I want citizens, my people, to know this, to have this, and that skill. We are short? Well, let's train them. But again, at one point you realize as a state that, you don't have enough jobs for your people, because, all the mechanized job has gone to the robots, and slowly all the, cognitive jobs are going to the robot as well. Mechanical jobs and cognitive. What else is left? What else is left is arts. The only things humans can do, more or less, you can't say better than computers, but as good as a computer, because art is not objective, it's subjective. So you can say humans have some kind of edge over computers regarding arts, because a computer A and computer B have the same exact objective view towards a piece of art, because they're both computers. They both think the same. Pattern of thought is the same. Humans, each one of them gets a different meaning from the art. There is no two human being that would take this exact same subjective view of the art. So the point is this. Prisons, commerce involved with the state, not a good result. Education, commerce involved with the state, not a good result. Defense, commerce involved with the state, we saw that the administration that brings about oilmen and armsmen. Mr. Average George was an oilman, oil family, and Mr. Cheney was an arms family from the arms, now the representative of the arms dealers. And, Halliburton, the logistics for, business of arms. And suddenly these two go into get the executive position, and suddenly there is a couple of wars going on over oil and minerals and resources, and you're thinking to yourself, wow, was that the only solution? I mean, war? And then, you know, why couldn't, you know, tourism be the answer? Oh, okay, let's send more tourists to Iraq to, you know, bring them out of their misery. But no, we have to, you know, shove a few javelin missiles up their ass. But the point is this: when commerce mixes with the state, shit. You see what I'm saying? Shit happens. Suddenly you have wars that you didn't want. Suddenly you have, you know, jails full of people that you weren't planning on. Then you have suddenly your children are not getting educated. Your people are not being educated because, you know, the money for education is going towards, you know, those defensive business boys, those missiles and those, you know, whatever. And basically, you know, healthcare, we don't have healthcare, but then, you know, we have healthcare. We have the best healthcare. Here's the thing, again, state has mixed with commerce. In this case, with healthcare, is the commerce of medicine. And the state has mixed with the commerce of medicine. I mean, remember how bad the mixing of the church and the state was? You know, you would get maybe the Secretary of Health and Human Services suddenly would end up being a bishop or a cardinal. You just, you know, that's when, you know, church and the state was mixed. Suddenly you pick a cardinal as the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Just, that's when the church and state was mixed. Now, that's laughable, right? It's laughable. You can't have Cardinal Jack in charge of the fucking Health and Human Services just because, you know, he's from the hierarchy of the church. So why is it acceptable for us to accept that we pick somebody from the commerce, from the hierarchy of the commerce near the top somewhere? We take an executive from there and we give him some kind of, you know, overseeing job on Department of Health and Human Services. Some kind of overseeing job. Sometimes the secretary themselves are from the commerce. Sometimes their assistants and their first secretary or second secretary, their immediate underlings are from the commerce. Now you see where the problem comes about. The problem is that whatever little money that the healthcare gets, that, you know, the defense allows the healthcare to get, whatever little money that the healthcare gets goes towards what? Goes towards at the edge of research and development and, you know, new stuff. But bulk of the healthcare, the regular stuff that the people need, no, they can go and sign up with one of these corporations, and those corporations, if they feel they're worthy, the corporation will take care of their healthcare. If the corporation doesn't think that individual is worthy, and that individual, you know, leaves the job or is fired, then that individual should find another corporation to get health care. That was before Obamacare, where they literally forced people to find an employer who can provide them a good health care, because healthcare was literally unheard of, an individual getting healthcare for themselves, unless the individual was a millionaire. There is no mass healthcare. Why isn't there a mass healthcare? It's sort of like, oh, our citizens, and we love them, and we love them, and we love our citizens. Well, show your love by providing them healthcare. It's free, and to all the tribal members. You don't have enough, well, you can cut back on the research and development. You can cut back on the $150,000 javelin missile, and maybe then you have enough money left to put up a couple of health outlets, clinics. Finance them. The government is giving so many student loans for so many useless avenues of study. Government cannot cut a little bit of a defense budget and put that money towards health clinics, or the staff to fill those health clinics. Of course the government can subsidize everything, but it's just commerce has got involved. High research, AG research, is financed by the system, but not bulk healthcare. Bulk healthcare, they can go fuck themselves. Find a corporation who loves you, or drop dead. The government has no responsibility. This is the thing that Mr. Elon Musk keeps repeated a couple of times, that the government is a badly run corporation. Well, yes and no. It's a government is a non-for-profit corporation, and supposed to be a non-for-profit corporation. But again, you cannot. That's because there are so many commercial interests in the government that Mr. Musk actually says it's a badly run corporation. Government should be an academic organization, not a corporation, because government is getting the worst of the worst. Government's responsibility is to look after the little guy, the minions who didn't fit in any of these corporations, because you can't ask the government to gas them, the minions that the corporations didn't want. You can't ask the government to, why aren't you efficient? Why aren't you efficiently gassing these minions who are not useless to us, the corporations? Or gas them, or send them to war, or do something with them. These minions that are useless to our corporations are ruining our image. That's what I'm sorry to say, Mr. Elon Musk is he's thinking too logically about the situation, because if efficiency is the only thing that matters, then you have a lot of casualties, because not everybody is as efficient as you like them to be, and eliminating the inefficient ones is not really thing we want to promote, because once it may get out of hand, and the gas chambers may come back. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to say our job is optimum efficiency. It's just too much hive mentality. Humans, we are still monkeys. We are not bees. We are from the monkeys. Monkeys, the biggest group of monkeys in Africa is about 150 members. We are from them. We are not built for a hive mentality, Mr. Musk. We are not, efficiency, and it was not, it's good. Thank you very much, but it's not primarily the factor that makes a human. So the point is this: when we mix, everywhere you look, that the state and commerce have interfaced, because there is too many people from commerce have been sprinkled on the side of state, and some from retired statesmen have been given promised or have been given cushy jobs. in commerce after they retire, or when they retire, whenever they feel like it to retire, they retire and they're given cushy jobs on the side of commerce. This back and forth, it might not seem silly, but when you remember that once upon a time in the church, this back and forth existed between the church and the state. This back and forth existed, and bishops and cardinals and whatever would be sprinkled over the government as heads of different governmental institutions, state institutions, and then retirees of the state, some of them would end up with very cushy jobs in the commerce, in the church, cushy jobs in the church. Church did hire non-clergy as well for different jobs. I mean, the church needs an accountant, the church needs an advocate, the church needs a lobbyist, the church needs whatever the fuck else church needs. There are also corporations. But the point is this. Now the church is gone, thank God for that. It's separated from the state. The commerce has been left behind. The commerce also needs to be separated from the state. And again, this means you can have capitalism, you can have, as you call it, free markets. You can have all of that. But it needs to be separate from the state. There must be, totally illegal, looked down upon morally and legally of any interaction between statesmen and commerce. Between statesmen and man of commerce. There should be absolutely zero contact. Abhorred. That's the only way democracy will work. If this state will work. State must be separate from commerce. And it was for different, and that for different intervals that people were happy, and people their taxes actually were spent on them, their own taxes was spent on them, and not in Iraq and Libya and Congo and Chad. Their money was not going up in smoke, fighting for Halliburton and Shell and Exxon and McDonald's and Coca-Cola. When that was not happening, their money was being spent on themselves. So they had good bridges and good schools, cheap schools, no money, free schools with lunch. That's when the money is spent on the citizens' money. When it's spent only on the citizens, they get a lot of bang for their buck. But not this money is not even spent on other citizens who are poorer, of other countries who are poorer. No, not even that. Some of it is just smoke and mirror. It's show. But most of this money that comes out of the government's pocket, that goes up in smoke of missiles across the planet, most of that money goes into McDonnell Douglas, Boeing, Halliburton, Raytheon, Honeywell, Boeing. Sort of like these guys get rich and the tax money goes up in smoke. You see that smoke? That was $500,000. Well, that missile cost Raytheon. That missile cost Raytheon maybe $5,000. That missile was sold to Uncle Sam for $95,000, and Uncle Sam just sent up $95,000 up in smoke. that smoke over there cost $95,000. And on top of some fucking hill in central Afghanistan. So the $95,000 tax money that could have been a healthcare center, just building it, probably the government can do it very cheaply. $95,000 put up a nice building, a local healthcare clinic, but nope. We need to send up that money up in smoke because Raytheon just sold a $5,000 product or $10,000 product for $90,000, and it just went up in smoke. So we need one more, or a better one. Make one that costs $120,000, and the one after that, make one that's cost $300,000. Again, at the edge, just like medicine, just like cutting edge of incarceration, the technology that's used there in policing and incarceration, just everything is at the edge, at the edge of research and development, and knowledge is gone into it to make such a smart missile. But healthcare, fuck 'em. I mean, you can do that, my dear uncle, but I mean, this is, I'm sure, if the founding fathers were alive today, they wouldn't be on board with this, with the situation of, we're gonna spend limitless to control mountaintops of Afghanistan, but we don't want to take care of. We don't see a need to take care of the minions who weren't able to be useful to the system. We are not going to provide healthcare to these minions, so hopefully they die faster because they're a burden to the system. You can do that. You have done that, but who's suffering and who's winning? And this is where the question of separation of commerce and state comes about. Commerce needs to be totally separated from the state. It should be it should be both legally and morally unacceptable for the people who choose to be representatives of supposedly their people should have zero contact with anybody in commerce. Zero. Intolerable. Should not be tolerated at all. And that means the representatives, their staff, anybody in contact with the state cannot have a commerce connection. Yes, if they're husband and wife, and one is in the state and the other one is in commerce, well, this is the one that should be treated like the CIA is trained to not even tell their family that they work in CIA. The government should be such that the government official, no matter how high their position in the government, should not, should be promoted not to divulge what position they hold, so there wouldn't be any conflict of interest. Works for the government, but it should be clear who works for the government, in the government, for the system, who's in the commerce. It's clear who's in commerce because they have corporations named after themselves. Most of them, you can find the records. That's who is in commerce. And whoever is, registered as a political figure, public figure, political figure, should, have absolutely zero interaction with people of commerce. Zero interaction. So I mean, when you see that, and again, mixing of commerce and the state in the financial situation, you see that, you know, these people who in charge of uh, legislature hold stocks, people in charge of, you know, in the ministries hold stocks, people of different companies, people very extremely rich people that are somehow, you know, founded, you know, are working for the government and have vast sums of money, or working for, you know, Federal Reserve, who is, you know, connected to the government. Government representatives are present in Federal Reserve. That those government representatives themselves should not be stockholders of any kind. Any kind. Sort of like, if you are at all getting a paycheck from the government, you should not be in commerce, period. If you're getting a paycheck from the government, you should not be in commerce, period. Even if you don't accept that check from the government, if your name goes on a check from a government, you cannot have any contact with commerce. How hard is that to implement? Just like if you're a member of the church, you cannot be, you know, part of the government. When you're a member of commerce, you cannot become part of a government. And vice versa. It should be made illegal for anybody leaving the government, retiring, to go into commerce. They should be given a stipend. Hey, you worked for the government for these many years. Here is your stipend. Every year we pay you this much, just, you know, as thank you for the job well done. But you cannot participate in any commerce. Of any, you know, magnitude. You can start your own commerce, but you cannot, you know, start working for somebody else in a position that, you know, can use your insider knowledge of the department that you were supervising inside the state. It should be made illegal. If you retire from the state, you legally and morally you are prohibited from participating in commerce. Once you retire from the state, you should just live on your stipend from the state, or return back to work for the state. So once you become, you know, become a statesman, you become a person who works for the state, you can go back and forth inside the state, but not go work for the commerce and leave the state and go work for the commerce, because then that commercial entity would have your insider knowledge. That should be made illegal. No connection, no commercial people should be installed into, you know, as overseers in the state, or work for the state in any capacity. No commercial entity should work for the state in any capacity, and no statesman should, you know, leave the state, retire, and go and, you know, join a commercial entity. Should be made illegal. This connection between the state and commerce should be broken, because everywhere that commerce and the state has been trying to, you know, work something out, the citizens have always been the losers. The citizens of your own citizens, the citizens of other countries are also have lost, because you can this is just, you know, there is overwhelming evidence. I mean, Nicaragua, that, you know, with the United Fruit Company and Dulles, who was the head of the CIA, again, it was a commercial interest. The United Fruit Company wanted to keep all of the Nicaraguan land under their own jurisdiction in order to maximize their profit, do whatever they need to do to maximize profit, and they didn't want to, you know, have any interference from the local government and the local, you know, peasants trying to have their own farms. That would be unacceptable. United Fruit Company wants all the land to make the system very efficient and highly profitable. So therefore, they said that commercial entity, United Fruit Company, goes and finds a guy in the state, Mr. Dulles, the head of CIA, to do something over there because their profits are in danger. So Mr. Dulles sends people down to start a coup and orchestrate a coup and remove the government and put a friendly face over there so the United Fruit Company can, continue reaping their profit. You see what I'm saying? So the state and commerce colluded and a bunch of people over there suffered for many years, and now they're being they're trying to reach some kind of stability inside the United States as illegal, sort of like when the pink skins come over, that's legal, but when other redskins want to move to another part of the redskin land, that they are illegal. Most of Nicaraguans are native redskins, native Indians of Nicaragua. They have a lot of native blood in them. They have some European blood, but they have a lot of native blood in them. Imagine that they're redskins, natives, at least natives to the land. They want to move up north to, maybe find something to eat because their own government was manipulated multiple times by multiple commercial interests who had influence in the state. Commercial influence in the state must stop. The Iranian coup, where the British had oil interests in Iran. The British thought Iranian oil should be theirs. This is how British are. Mine is mine, yours is mine. His is mine and hers is mine. Everything belongs to the British. So they saw the Iranian oil as their own oil. And once the Iranians rose up and said, hey, no, you know what? We have gone this democratic way that you suggested. Now we're a democracy. And we think we should keep our oil. At least, under our own management. And sell it to whoever is willing to pay for it more. Not just, sell it to the fucking British. And the British commercial interest got in touch with the British state, and the British state got in touch with the CIA, with Uncle Sam's managers, and together CIA sent a guy in with the money and orchestrated a overthrow of the first real democratically elected government in Iran, in the Middle East altogether. Commercial interest colludes with the state, and commercial interest asks the state, no, it demands the state to protect their interest. The state doesn't have a mandate to protect corporate interests. The state should not have a mandate to protect corporate interests overseas. Inside, maybe. Internally, maybe. But externally, protecting corporate state is basically what happened. Is there is a few rich people in Britain who own British Petroleum, the major stockholders, BP, the major stockholders of BP, see some statement, go and see some statement and say, hey, if our stock is going to be worth much, you need to, remove, make something happen in that shithole over there, because we need our oil. We need their oil. We need to sell their oil under our name. So those statements get in touch with these statements, and these statements go to work to overthrow another state, state's government. And this is not like it's over and over and over. It's just corporation. Commerce has an interest, and because commerce and state are interwoven, at least at the top, the state goes to action to, for the interest of the commerce. Now, if this interest means, even if it means even invading countries, yes, we're going to invade the country because there is a corporate interest here, and we are the state, and we are, corporate is our cousin. We will go and, put soldiers on the ground to protect the board of trustees of Chevron, to protect the stockholders of Chevron. Well, actually, Chevron should, come to some sort of a reasonable understanding with the locals if they want to do business with them. If Chevron, BP, British Petroleum, could have talked with the Iranians and said, okay, yeah, we understand, it's your oil, yeah, we understand you want to have it yourself. Okay, let's cut a deal. Let's cut a deal. We take 20%. We continue helping you pull your oil out of your ground, but we take 10%. We take 20%. But no, British Petroleum was like, no. We had 100%. We want to keep 100%. Now CIA, go do whatever the fuck you need to do, because we want to keep 100% of the oil. We don't want to work out the deal. This is it. When commerce gets in touch with the state, when the commerce is allowed to get in touch with the state, wherever there is this overlap, and it shows. A few places where commerce doesn't have an interest and the state is doing their thing, you see it's pretty good. It's going pretty good. I mean, for one thing, they really, pushed commerce back by declaring the national parks here and the national parks in there, in order to, push back against the commerce. But we see again, every time there is a commercial president in the office, the first thing they go after is like, let's cut down on those national parks. There is a commerce interest here. I know the guy. He's my cousin. He can make a lot of money if he can exploit some of the. And he's going to, he's going to make a lot of money, and he's going to give me a good deal too. Donate to my re-election for 8 terms, for the 8th term and the 9th term and the 10th term. He's gonna donate to my re-election. So, national parks, again, commerce and the state get to some kind of understanding. You scratch my back, I scratch your back, and the people get screwed. The national parks gets chopped in half, and the commerce makes a bunch more money. And, kicks back some in the form of donations to the re-election campaign. So it's just not going to work out. Democracy is not going to work out if you allow commerce to be so involved with the state. Democracy will not work out. Everywhere you look, there is an involvement between the state and commerce. It's very bad. It's very bad. People suffer. It's bad in terms of people suffering. When there is an interaction between the state and commerce, and there is you scratch my back, I scratch your back kind of relationship between the state and the commerce. Wherever that happens, Wherever that happens, you have to see that there is going to be an issue. A lot of people lose, a lot of people lose, and but a few people at the top level of commerce win, fat and happy. And the politicians who, who had that close connection with the commerce, they get paid back in re-election donations, and the commercial guy gets what more profits. Defense, education, healthcare, on and on and on. Just like the church was separated from the state, commerce needs to be separated from the state as well. You can have capitalism, but you cannot mix commerce with the state.